Okay, that is going.
Recording already?
Recording, yes.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this meeting of the Central Coast Local Planning Panel. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we live, work and play. We pay our respects to the Darkinjung country and elders past and present. We recognise their continued connection with these lands and waterways and extend this acknowledgement to the homelands and stories of those who also call this place home. We recognise our future leaders and the shared responsibility to care for and protect our place and people. I'll remind everybody that this meeting is being recorded and webcast as is required by our operational procedures, and there's to be no other recording or filming of the meeting. Following this meeting, the panel will meet separately to confer and discuss each of the items on the agenda and formulate its decisions. Those decisions and the audio recording should be available on the Council's website ordinarily within 7 days. I'd ask everybody to turn their electronic devices to silent. Turn your microphone to mute until it's your turn to speak, and after you've spoken, please also remember to put the microphone back on mute. A reminder to panel members that you're required to have your camera on for the duration of the meeting. For all other attendees, you do not need to have your camera on, but when you come to speak, please turn it on and ensure you introduce yourself so that all the panel is aware of who's speaking at any given time. We'd also ask if you could refrain from entering comments in the chat box in relation to matters before the panel. The chat box may be used to advise the Secretariat of technical issues and other minor matters. Any comments made in the chat box in relation to applications will be deleted and not considered. My name's Terry Sheehan. I'm the chair of the panel for today, and I'm joined with two experts, David Furlong and Michael Ryan.
Good afternoon.
And nominated community panel member Julian Ardas. There are no apologies. The following development applications that meet the state government's public meeting criteria will be considered today. And the first is 63370 of 2021, the boarding house proposal for 23 Ash Street, Terrigal. Outside of the public meeting, there will be three other applications considered: 1809 of 2022, 1531 of 2024, 690 of 2024, and also a confidential matter. The panel's been provided with assessment reports prepared by the council staff, with a site orientation has been undertaken, and council staff have also briefed the panel on the key issues that these applications raise. A reminder that the panel has also been furnished with all the documentation provided by the applicant, as well as all the public submissions received. Today we have a number of people registered to speak on item 4.3, which is 63370 of 2021. And the request to speak came from Mr. John Lockery, Ms. Sade Fafaro, Janet Robbins, and Brad De La Pierre, who's the applicant's representative. I'm going to call those people, or welcome those people firstly, who've been registered to speak. It's an opportunity for the panel to hear from members of the community and from the applicants, and for the panel to ask questions if necessary to clarify our understanding. It's not a forum for debate, but rather to ensure the panel are in receipt of all the various views and information in order to make an informed decision. We'll hear from speakers on the first agenda item, then we'll hear from the applicant's representative and so on. Prior to commencing address, the speakers should state name, organisation, group or party they represent if applicable. As speakers would know from the registration form, our practice is to allow individual members of the public 3 minutes to speak on each matter. Panel members may ask questions of the speakers to clarify our understanding of the issues involved or to clarify a particular point. Speakers are not entitled to ask questions of the panel. Once members of the public have spoken, the applicant's representatives will be given a maximum total speaking time of 15 minutes to respond should they wish to. Again, the panel may have questions for the applicant or request the applicant to make a clarification. I remind everyone that each speaker should be heard in silence while they're addressing the panel, and that courtesy and respect are to be observed throughout the meeting. Importantly, there is to be no personal criticism directed at council staff, other speakers, the panel, or any people who aren't here. Please do not try to denigrate others in order to make your point. This does nothing to advance the panel's understanding of the matters under consideration and may only serve to undermine useful points that you make. Please be aware this is a public meeting and is being recorded and published, and you're responsible for your own comments, so do try and avoid making slanderous comments. At the conclusion of your address to the panel, and following any questions, the speaker will be asked to mute the microphone and may leave the meeting or may stay to the end of the meeting if they wish. Once we've heard from all the speakers, we'll close the meeting and move into the deliberation phase. As previously mentioned, the recording and the decision on each item will be made public in coming days, usually well within a week. Any decision will be accompanied by reasons. Decisions are by majority vote, but I do have a casting vote if needed. Applications will either be approved, refused or deferred. It is possible the panel may make a different decision than that recommended by the council staff. If a matter is deferred, it's also possible the panel may subsequently determine the application by electronic means without another public meeting. After hearing from the speakers, the panel may ask questions of the council officers to clarify any matters raised. Now, there's some formal matters before we hear from the participants. The requirements of the Code of Conduct for panel members include the panel members completing a conflict of interest declaration for any items on the agenda. All four of us have submitted written declarations of interest. Are there any declarations which have not been previously made?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Any further comments?
Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
None from me.
Thank you. None from me.
None from me.
The minutes of the panel's meeting of the 5th of June are submitted for notation. Take it there's no objection to their being noted. I therefore now open the public meeting, and we come to item 4.3, which is the boarding house proposal for 23 Ash Street, Terrigal. Now, I have on the list of order for speakers, Mr. Lockery, Ms. Fafaro, and Ms. Robbins. If that's convenient, Mr. Lockery, would you like to speak now? Mr. Lockery?
You're on mute, Mr. Lockery. Oh. Mr. Lockery, John, can you hear me?
We got Mr. Lockery?
I can't. Mr. Lockery.
John, you might need to press the mic button in the top right corner of your screen.
Yes. Hello.
There we go. Hi.
Yeah.
Do you want to just start again? There we go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We haven't heard anything so far from you, Mr. Lockery.
Sorry
So
about that.
please commence.
Yes. Okay, my name's John Arthur Lockery. I'm the owner of the properties, 5 townhouses on the southern side border of the proposed development at 23 Ash Street, Terrigal. It consists of 5 townhouses, which I said. Strongly object to the excessive overshadowing of the property on the southern side boundary. It would impact heavily on the courtyard of those properties and the outside recreation to the tenants, which are used quite regularly. Also their barbecue area and also their clotheslines and there, with very little sunlight to that area. And also possibly as time may develop, solar panels will be used a lot more and be a lot of shadowing to the solar panels. Also, too, is the loss of privacy to the bedrooms, bathrooms, kitchen, which all face on the southern side boundary to the proposed development. The townhouses are built with down the fall of the slope, natural slope of the land, and by the time we get to the back level of the proposed development, there'll be 3 stories high, which would badly impact units 4 and 5 because of the fall of the land. Okay, the other thing is noise and acoustics issues. Being a 10-room boarding house, people are coming and going at all hours of the day and night with various visitors, party guests, and entertaining, and the noise factor in leaving and entering the building. Where if it's just a normal tenanted property, they move in and you haven't got such a movement, which I would visualise would be happening there. Okay, the outside common mutual area. Well, I would understand, being the type of whether we call them tenants or guests there, there'd be late drinking. I should imagine be a bit of music. There'd be talking to late hours, because this is their recreation area outside. And also the townhouses tenants, they have the right of their own private piece of quietness to themselves. I'm sorry. Well, there'd be quite a lot of impact to the property being so close. Yeah. Okay. Also, the proposed building is within 1.1 metre of the boundary, which is very, very close. So it's certainly up there. They're very close to where the townhouses are. Okay, well, size of development. Well, yeah, 10 townhouses on a 480 square metre block. It's just doesn't go. I mean, the other homes around there are all normal size homes, and as Terrigal's known as Terrigal Bowl, it's not, the place to position a boarding house with, maybe the type of people that will be in that area and around that situation. Okay, we've got parking. There's only space for 5 parking spaces. Well, what happens when visitors want to enter that property, or the guests have got visitors? Delivery of goods is another thing you would want to think of. The size of the parking area for the cars, I understand they hardly can even get out of the car and open the door because the area is set aside. Okay, you've got a long, narrow driveway down to enter down into that area. The vehicles, the existing house at present has trouble even entering down that side passage because it's a very, very narrow passage. Okay, where do the extra cars park? Well, you've got 13 guests there. That I assume some of them would have cars, and also you're going to have visitors and things. As I said, where do they park? They have to park in Ash Street, which is over parked now, and very it's very hard to find a parking spot there now. So once again, all that movement would move back into Ash Street, and also the movement of traffic there and in and out, which interrupts the peace, the quietness of the other surrounding and properties that would be over joining it. Okay, we've got a rubbish disposal bin, which is on the southern.
That's time, Terry.
Yes, Mr. Locker, you've well exceeded your time. Is there anything really important you need to say?
Just there's a rubbish bin disposal on the southern side of the boundary. Well, which is just outside of unit number 1 bedroom, which would affect their kitchen and their window. A rubbish bin disposal, you've got smell, vermin, and also that being a moving type of tenant, people would be there, they'd possibly be putting rubbish and using those bins at all hours of the night. So that would summarise my situation up. So
Okay.
yeah, which I'm very heavily impacted, to the project or the development. Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for that. Made a note of all those points.
Yeah.
Sade, you are on the list next. You got something to add? We don't need to hear all the same issues from everybody, so you tell me what's really important.
Sure. I might just summarise the concerns that I'd like to discuss today. So my name is Sade Fafara. I'm here on behalf of my grandparents, Fred and Rita Pulicino of 21 Ash Street, who directly adjoin the proposed development. And Jan Robinson's also asked me to, speak on her behalf as well today. While I represent the views of my grandparents and Jan, I believe this objection reflects the sentiments of the broader Ash Street community, many residents of which who have submitted detailed concerns back in 2021. I'd like to make clear on the outset that we strongly oppose this development. We've enjoyed Terrigal for over 30 years and seen the area evolve, particularly in recent years, as development has accelerated. And we acknowledge the growth is necessary and that the state and local governments are working hard to meet ongoing housing needs. And we're generally supportive of development that is balanced, well considered and aligned with local planning intent. However, we believe this proposal is none of those things. As John touched on, the proposal doesn't comply with key planning controls, particularly with respect to the site. It's well below what's typically suitable for a 9-room boarding home. The setbacks are inadequate, creating severe privacy and overshadowing issues, and the height compliance remains unclear, particularly in relation to the roof and lift overruns. We're also concerned about the undue amenity impacts on neighbours. So the proposal leads to overshadowing of living areas and private spaces on John's 25 Ash Street, as he mentioned. But there's also privacy loss that arises from the elevated windows and shared balconies facing directly onto our neighbouring rear yard. Finally, noise and activity from up to 9 unrelated residents using communal indoor and outdoor spaces on such a small site is out of scale with what the street was designed to accommodate for. In terms of environmental and structural concerns, these remain unclear to us. We acknowledge that the application has been active since 2021, and perhaps some technical reports may have been updated, but these haven't been made available to us. So the lack of transparency leaves ongoing concerns unresolved. This is particularly in relation to the site as it's mapped the site is in a mapped flood-prone area, and it's unclear as to what flood mitigation measures are now proposed. The soil is highly reactive, with visible damage already evident in the existing structure, and the site also falls within a Class 5 acid sulfate soil risk area. And again, there is no mitigation plan included in the last public available submission. In addition, we believe the proposal is not consistent with the surrounding character and the overall character of Terrigal. So Ash Street is made up of detached homes on moderate lots, housing families and long-term residents. A boarding house with 9 rooms, minimal landscaping, limited parking, and a high turnover of occupants is inconsistent with the prevailing low-density permanent residential character of the street. While Terrigal is experiencing growth, we acknowledge that this form of development feels disproportionate to the area, being one of a high cost of living and limited access to essential services, education, and employment opportunities. We have raised concerns about the genuine purpose of this proposed boarding home, given its location, size, and expected market rents that it will attract. There is strong communal concern that the use may drift towards short-term accommodation, particularly given Terrigal's popularity as a tourist destination. And there has been many examples of this happening across other similar boarding homes across the Central Coast. Finally, parking, which is one of our main concerns. There is only 5 on-site parking spaces, as John noted. That's far below what is needed for up to 9, a minimum of 9 residents, their visitors, and any staff. So Ash Street, as you may know, is a narrow street with limited turning areas and minimal capacity to absorb any additional street parking. Even at my grandparents' home, we have 2 dwellings on our home, and we struggle with manoeuvring and accessing both homes on that block. So in closing, our view is that this proposal does not meet the standard, and we respectfully ask the panel to consider the long-term impacts that this boarding house may have on Terrigal, and thus refuse the application.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Jan Robinson, did you wish to add to anything that's been said?
No, I'd just like to reiterate what Sade and John said. My concerns are the same as theirs, and I do hope that you also refuse this application. We don't think it's an appropriate one for our area. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, there's only Mr. Delapierre to speak now. I can't see him.
Good afternoon, Chair.
I'm sorry, you there? Yes, please.
I am Chair, so
Thank you, please.
thank you, Chair and panel members for allowing me to speak today. As you outlined, my name is Brad Delapierre. I'm the Town Planning Consultant for the applicant. I'd like to briefly outline today why I think the panel should give serious consideration to approving the development, notwithstanding the fact of Council's assessment report and the objections we've just heard from. We believe that this modest proposal for a 2-storey boarding house that complies with the FSR and the height controls is an appropriate response to the site in this R1 zone that's got a mix of residential dwellings, townhouses and residential flat buildings. We believe that this development will provide affordable housing for key workers and assist with addressing the current housing crisis on the Central Coast. So I'd briefly like to run through the grounds of refusal that are before you this afternoon. And I'll just do that now. So with regards to refusal ground 1, that talks about, it raises concern about the private open space to the manager's residence. It raises concern that the private open space is proposed forward of the building line, and that's inconsistent with the SEP and the locality. I note that at 29 Ash Street, there's a residential flat building that does have private open space in the form of balconies that the panel would have seen this morning in the front setback. On that basis, I consider that the private open space forward of the building line is consistent with the existing character of the area, and will provide an appropriate level of amenity for the occupying manager. With respect to parking, council raises concern that the development requires 6 car parking spaces or 6.5 car parking spaces and provides 5. I'd like to draw the panel's attention to clause 29E of the SEP that indicates that if half a parking space provided per boarding house is provided, then parking is not allowed to form a ground of refusal. Council seems to raise concern with the parking or the non-provision of parking for an employee of the boarding house. I'd just again like the panel to consider the wording of that clause. My reading of that clause is the panel, for example, could refuse the development if 2 car parking spaces were provided for employees, but if no parking space is provided for an employee or no more than 1, then that's a merit issue. So again, the panel will be aware that the current parking provisions for a boarding house if lodged today under the current controls would suggest that in accessible areas such as this, 0.2 of a car parking space per boarding room, or in the case of this development, 2 spaces would be adequate for a boarding house of this capacity. With regards to the character of the area, as the panel would have seen from its site visit this morning, the area has a wide range of land use types, such as dwelling houses, townhouses next door. We heard from the ejector first, as well as apartment buildings. We note that the development, as I talked about, entitled to a FSR of 1:1 using the boarding house controls. We propose an FSR of 0.57 to 1, which I think demonstrates that it's compatible with the low density scale of the adjoining properties one way and the townhouses the other, which would have a higher FSR. The zoning permits a wide range of land uses, and we believe that a boarding house on this site is an appropriate response, and effectively will appear as a two-storey building of a similar scale to a house. There's certainly some issues raised in the remaining issues with regards to curbs, landscaping, etc. I think some of those issues with regards to the driveway and pedestrian paths could be dealt with via conditions of consent. With respect to landscaping, I know council indicates that in the table it meets the set requirements for having appropriate landscaping between the building and the street. So yeah, again, I'd like the panel to consider, notwithstanding a recommendation, to consider approving it and providing affordable housing in the form of a boarding house, diverse form of housing in an accessible area. If the panel wishes, I can briefly address the objections, or alternatively, I'm happy to answer any questions panel members may have.
Is that all you wish to say? Yeah.
Yes, I'm happy to stop at this point.
Okay, Brett. Well, I'm going to ask the panel members if they want to ask questions of any of the three citizens who responded, who spoke to their objections, or to Mr. De La Pierre. Any questions? Michael?
Can you hear me, Terry?
I can now. Yes, thank you.
Okay. Brad, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I'm intrigued. Why are you retaining some of the existing walls in the building rather than a complete demolition?
The short answer to that is that construction is expensive these days, and we think there's some benefit in reducing construction costs and retaining and reusing part of the existing structure.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Anything else, Michael?
No, thank you.
David?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Julian?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Well, then I don't have any questions. Clearly understood everything that's been said. Well, I think that we can move on then. So that'll be the end of that item. As indicated at the outset, we will adjourn after we've considered the other matters and deliberate on this and publish our outcomes. So you're all free to leave. Thank you very much for coming.
Yes, mate. Can John Lockery speak or not?
No, not again. You had more than enough time. The first one.
I was just going to ask the question on the existing walls. And
no more questions. No more questions of the applicant. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. We'll go into the.
Well, we'll pull it up anyhow.
That's the end of the public meeting, and thank you very much for your attendance and your interest.
Yeah, well, see up the top.